Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Just a quick video, a little bit of an update on the channel. Obviously, as I said before, started a new job. There's quite a lot of travel involved on a daily basis. So I'm not able to make content freely at the moment, I guess you would say. I certainly can't get into or anywhere near the dojo to sort of film any kind of demonstration stuff. Obviously, we're still in lockdown, particularly as far as sports goes here in Northern Ireland. So I can't rope anyone in to help me. Plus, I just haven't got the time to go up there at the minute. But what I can do is just kind of talk about stuff, and I can't film in the house at the moment because of the job. So I'm just having to do this in the car. I hope it works out okay. It's raining at the moment, so the audio is maybe not going to be the very best. But if we persist, we'll probably get there. So today's video, I wanted to start like a short series of videos on like key concepts. Basically key fundamental concepts that I think would help somebody who's like a beginner, working their way up to Shodan, maybe even Nidan level, and you really want to form a solid foundation all the way up to Sandan, so that when you move on to Shodan Nidan, Sandan, it's all about displaying quite physical attributes that you're there to display in terms of your actual technique. Like the way you move your feet, the way you move your hands, the way you hold your kamae. Sandan starting to move off in a little bit of a different direction with opportunities and things like that, and maybe you probably even get a glimmer of that in Nidan, but it's not really the focus of the grading, if that makes sense. If you're using the grading as a measuring stick. So anyway, you want to have this like really good foundation so that by the time you move on, like once you've kind of passed your Sandan, you're well into a different thing where you're looking at like the interaction between the two people participating in the shiai or shinza or keiko or whatever it is. And that's more to do with like seme and opportunities, pressure, this sort of thing. So for the purposes of this video, like I said, we're going to talk about these sort of basic fundamental principles that are like really key to building that foundation and getting you ready long term to kind of move on to other things, although you'll always be practicing this sort of stuff. So the first one I want to talk about today is Sutemi. So Sutemi is really, like in a basic way, is basically your commitment when you cut. Like throwing caution to the wind. That's quite a good expression, right? Throw caution to the wind and just go, all out, guns blazing, when you do cut. So that doesn't mean like you should just cut them often. A lot of people I think get confused by that. So you find like people, they're really trying to be spirited and they do like 100 cuts, and they're lucky if like 2 of them are ippon in a shiai or keiko. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, you make a bit of pressure, and then when you get the opportunity to strike, don't hesitate. Yeah, throw everything you got into it, all the energy you have. Don't leave anything spare on the table. In its most basic sense, that's Sutemi. Now, the reason I bring it up is there's a couple of things that you can do to kind of like observe whether you're developing Sutemi or not. And there's some ways that some areas that you can focus on in your training to develop it. So there's a mental side to Sutemi, which is, as I said, that kind of commitment side. There's more to that as well. And there's like a physical manifestation of that. So let's start with the mental side, so you can get your head in the right headspace to think about it as you're training. My first sensei had a very good description, which I think holds quite true, which is basically to cut, or strike without the fear of being struck. So that means no matter what's going on, if you're setting up like a shikake men, right? That's just where you kind of pressure, step in, bang, and you just overwhelm them with a strong men cut. That's shikake men, okay? Or if you can develop a strong debana men as well, which is quite good. So if, at the point where just about where you think they're thinking of attacking you, you launch your attack before they even get a chance to set off. But they'd made the decision to try to attack you. If you can perceive that moment and beat them to it, that's debana. If you can develop those sorts of waza, men and kote, and get them strong, and you cut without this fear of counterattack, right? So you throw everything in it. You'll find that the physical side, there's a manifestation of that. That means it's very difficult for them to counterattack you in those situations. Not impossible, because obviously everybody's learning and improving at different rates. So you're always going to run into someone whose kendo's a bit stronger than you, or maybe their understanding of seme, of pressure, is a bit more advanced than yours, so they see your attack coming, or something like that. We all have things to learn. But the point is that this is a good mental way of thinking about it, to form some kind of training approach to make it stronger. So cut without, or strike without the fear of being struck. Don't worry about counterattacks. Throw everything you got at it. If it fails and they do counterattack you, good. That's a message that you can, that's a data that you can put in your banks, and you can reflect on it later and go, could I have done that better? Was it actually the moment where I cut that was the problem, or was it something that happened before? When I was trying to put the pressure on and make an opportunity. And you'll be able to separate those two, and you'll know whether it's a technique thing that you need to work on, or whether it's an engagement thing, Like I said, the interplay, the connection between the opponent and yourself, and trying to put on the pressure. So that's one side of it. And it's a very, very important side. If you can't hack the mental side, then the physical side is going to be difficult as well, because you won't really know, you won't have a measuring stick for how hard you can push it. So let's move on to the physical side. You often get told, let's start actually upper body, right? And we'll work our way down. You'd be forgiven for thinking that, if somebody says, like, what part of your body do you use to strike the other person in Kendo? A lot of people would be like, oh, well, you use your hands. But that's a bad way to think of it. You attack your opponent with your feet. And even more so, when you have strong Kendo, you attack with your hips. So what does that mean? Basically, the distance really is controlled by where your hips are in relation to the other person's hips. That's the real mai. When we learn mai in the beginning, the distance, we often talk about, just outside of attacking distance, tomai, just touching, or maybe like, a little bit further in from that, and that's isoku ito. So one step, one cut. And then maybe like when you're quite close, I guess, like past door cutting distance, it's like chikamai. It's a bit too close for waza, right? Maybe make a hikiwaza from there, but that's about the height of it. But it's basically too close to cut from where you're standing. So that's a very basic interpretation of the distance. It's good for getting people up and running from the beginning. But really, if you imagine this is my finger is the shinai, and this as the person who's holding it, that's their door, right? The front of their door, the belly. The real mai is wherever their left foot is. That's really the mai. That's the limit. Yep. It's the furthest thing back, and it's the thing that they're using to drive themselves forward. So wherever that is where that opponent is. But another good way to think of it is where their body is. Okay, because wherever their trunk has to go, their left foot's going to have to follow to some extent, if their kendo's any good. Okay, so one of the most common things that you would see, like maybe a bad habit that could develop, is people tend to think that if they use their hands more and their shoulders more, particularly the right hand, and kind of reach out with that. So sometimes you'll see the shoulder twist like that, and the shinai will go first, right? Rather than the feet going and then the cut, they reach and leap at the same time, and there's a bit of a twist, and the right shoulder comes forward. Sometimes there's even that like a leaning forward, like so. This would be like a straight torso, and then like imagine like they're leaning like this, trying to stretch out and reach with the shinai. A lot of people mistake that for something that will generate a lot of speed, but it's false economy. The speed should come from being relaxed and having an ability to drive off your left foot, your back foot, very strongly and efficiently. And when people reach like that, that's not what's happening. But it comes, for some people, it's a manifestation of them thinking that that's faster. And what you'll find is it'll lack saya. It won't have the power, the real kind of snap and power that you need at the end of the cut for it to be a valid strike. So that's something you want to try to rein in. Okay, you generally want to keep your shoulders. This right shoulder naturally sits a little bit further forward when you're in Shodan. You want to basically keep that shape. So you don't want it to twist only when you cut. You want it to have roughly the same sort of shape as you do in Shodan, because your hands are in the same position on the shinai. So there's no reason for it to change. So that's one side. The other side is also you don't want this leaning in. Yeah, so where the body kind of tips like this and the reaching out with shinai. You want the body to stay nice and straight. Okay, the distance is what the distance is. Nothing's going to change that. You might feel like you can reach further. You probably can't. The way to reach further is by improving your footwork, okay, and your kamae. So I'll link a video in the description. It's a great video actually of a training exercise that you can do if you have partners that you can work with. There's a video with Alex Bennett Sensei, who's Kyoshi Nanadan, so Kyoshi 7th Dan. And I believe he's visiting Hiro Imafuji Sensei's dojo, I think that's right. But both of them are teaching at this, but Bennett Sensei's leading the class or seminar, whatever it is. But they're talking about learning your mai, your real mai, okay? Because most people can cut from further away than they think they can, but they can also do it with clean posture, upright posture. And he shows you an exercise to develop that. So I'll link that above. Anyway, moving on. So let's say you get the shoulder side sorted out. You're nice and relaxed in your wrists. You've got good tenuchi, the snap at the end of the cut. So what else can you do? You really want to keep your hips in check. There's quite a common thing. If you have like a left heel, if that's your left heel, that's your left foot, right foot. If your left heel turns in like this, there's a chance that your hips are dipping on one end, which can make this right shoulder thing worse, okay? So you might think like, no, I've really worked on that at the top, but the problem might be at the bottom. So just bear that in mind. So hips is the next thing. Keep the hips nice and straight. And then we'll talk about the left foot as well. So you want to have that left leg straight, but it's not really locked because you need to launch off of it. But you're not going to launch so much with your knees, right? There will be a bit of knee movement in there, but it's a small contributor. There's a reason why it's your calf muscle. Okay, so one of the things you can do, if you find you're having to bend your knee before you set off a lot, think about how high your heel is. Often people who have a left foot where the heel is too high have to bend the left knee excessively. So they can't keep tension in the leg because the leg is bent. Okay, so you need it straight enough that you can keep tension in it. And to do that, you need to drop your heel. So about 15 degrees off the floor. It's like an inch and a half off the floor, depends on your build. But not like this, but like this. Okay. And you should then be able to straighten your leg out a bit more to the point where it's just a fraction more bent than it would be if it was locked. The next thing you want to do is you can practice in your suburi. You can practice it in your kirikaeshi. You can practice all the time basically, which is, but it's easier to do in fundamentals. When you drive forward, really push as far as you can in suburi. without tipping your body, without twisting your upper body or your hips. And make sure that you don't dip down and then come up again. Yeah, so not, yeah. And when you do fumikomi, make sure you're not going up like this. Make sure you're driving forward. So your head shouldn't dip up and down very much. If you practice that and make sure that as you finish the step, that left foot comes up really sharply, which is hiketsuke. If you practice this real driving movement from your lower body and keep the tension in your core, in your abdomen, so that you don't tip and wobble and waver, what you'll find is that you start to develop the physical power. And you do a lot of footwork practice like this, okay, under different levels of pressure. You do oikomi, which is where you do drills all the way up and down the length of the dojo. Lots of kirikaishi, lots and lots of kirikaishi. Kakari keiko, think about this driving movement. Yeah. Okay, so one of the benefits that happens if you keep your posture good, so I'll just finish off with this. If you imagine this being the door again, that being the door, is if you think about pressure, 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 seme, and the person here just goes, men, straight to men, right? Keeps a really nice shape. There's very few opportunities to counterattack it, okay? If you're the type of person that leans in because you're not confident that you're reaching, so you go pressure, 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 lean in. What happens is you create a bigger space between here and here, which means they've got time to kaishido, yeah, kaishido, bam. Another thing you can do, talked about this in other videos, keep your hands down for as long as you can while you advance towards the opponent. This is during the cut now. So as your right foot is gliding forward, as you're driving off with your left foot and the right foot is naturally sliding as a result of that, so this is your start of your cut, you keep your hands down. Only when the left foot snaps up, cut in one motion, okay? Not 1, 2, but bam, in the time it takes to cut, okay? And what'll happen as a result of that means that, so if we go back to this example, instead of like this, it's bam, right? So all they see is somebody in posture, no opportunity, bang, strike. Whereas if you lift your hands early, debana kote, bang, okay? They've got a chance to counterattack you. So now you can see how those physical attributes result in a situation where you're very difficult to fight, because when you do attack, it's 100%. So you're coming at them with everything you got. And the next thing is you're coming at them with much better posture, fewer opportunities for them to turn it against you, and much less warning for them, and from a much more effective distance for you. Okay, everything, it starts to tip a lot of things into your favor. Okay, and this will help you down the line when you start to do more ojiwaza, and when you start to do more work with developing your seme, your pressure that you put on people. Okay, because they'll take every attack that you do, they'll take it very seriously because they've seen that you always throw everything you've got into each attack. Okay. Right, I'm going to leave it there because I've got to go back. I'm on my lunch break. So I've got to go back to work. Leave a comment if you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up. And any suggestions of topics you want covered, and I'll do my best. Thanks for all the subs and likes and compliments on the other videos. I'm really glad it's helping people. I'll do my best to keep doing content as and when I can. Right. Till next time, take it easy. Bye-bye.